Hello, welcome to the next video in our series. So this is for anyone who is maybe juggling a day job or a corporate position, but also thinking of starting their own business or side hustle. And you're kind of doing that dance between, okay, maybe one day you want to leave corporate and you want to have your own business or a job that replaces your corporate salary. But for right now, it feels a little too risky to make that leap. And so you're juggling both. I've been there. That is a position that so many people find themselves in. And even for years when I wasn't even necessarily pursuing starting a business, but was just building up creative projects on the side and kind of figuring out what I wanted my side hustle to be, it's a place that I lived in for years and years. And I definitely had to navigate, how do I show up my utmost at work? How do I still continue to thrive there and get positions and be really present in that role, but then also come home and somehow muster the energy to work on creative projects and to keep that momentum going towards a bigger vision and dream. And so I really did a lot of trial and error and learned things that helped me, learned things that didn't work as well. And I want to share a few tips and tricks that I really learned on my journey in the hopes that they can serve you as well. All right, and so if you find yourself in a similar position, just know that the end is in sight. Like one day you can make that leap, and you might not be ready right now to support yourself fully financially without having your day job, and there's no shame in that. I actually think I should do another video on that. Like, do you go full-time in work? Do you burn the boats and go build your dream? Because that's a debate I had as well. So definitely comment and let me know if that's a video you would be interested in. But for right now, let's say that you've just decided to stay at your corporate job or day job and are just looking to find a way to have the time and energy to build a side hustle, a business, a dream, and eventually one day be able to potentially do that full time or even replace and surpass your current income doing it. All right, the first thing that I found really worked for me was reserving even one night a week for that side hustle or dream. So for me, it was Monday nights, and the first kind of creative project I worked on like this was a blog. And every single weekday for years, I would publish a blog post. And so that was quite a big project to do in addition to a full-time job. And at that time, I had an hour commute both directions. So I was a busy lady. I was doing a lot. Not to mention all the things we all have going on with family and social responsibilities and personal care and all that stuff, right? So for me, by reserving Monday night, that was a way that I could get a ton done in those few hours. So I said no to other social activities on Monday nights. That was really my time that I protected. And I would like nestle up in my room and have my laptop, and I would just go to work for hours. I would write the entire week of blog content. So then throughout the rest of the week in the mornings, I could just do a quick social media post sharing what was published that day. So for me, that really helped me get into a cadence where before I would try and do things piecemeal and I would try and do a little bit every night when I got home, and I just found I burned out so much more quickly because you were just always spinning, like your brain was always working, and I couldn't always count on myself to have that energy up at the end of a full workday. But if I could have one night a week where I could just do my thing and get it all done for the rest of the week, that really helped me sustain that for years and years. And so that's something that I would recommend trying. Like maybe for you, it's another night of the week or it's an afternoon on the weekend. But that can be a great way to just carve out, even if it's 3 or 4 hours, you'll be amazed what you can do if that is the only time you've got and you know it, and you really protect it. And for me, I was not on social media, I was not checking my phone, I was not being distracted by other notifications, or the TV wasn't on in the background. That was my time, and I really used it well. And so you could do the same. You don't have to have every single day of the week be something that moves you forward in your business if you can consolidate that time into a few hours one day of the week. So never feel like that's not enough, especially if you use that time really, really wisely. The next thing that I would say that really helped me was almost like using my time when I could be multitasking. Meaning, if I had a commute, right? Like I mentioned, I had an hour drive each way, sometimes more. And so for me, I would listen to podcasts, to audiobooks. I was constantly learning on that commute. And that really helped me. So I felt like I was continually inspired and I had ideas when I got home to pour into my business. And I was working through like my mindset things. And I remember just, learning from Gabby Bernstein and all these teachers I'd never found before, and just feeling so motivated and lifted up by them by the time I got home to work on my projects. And I'd always learn new little tips and tricks from them. And so for me, like that hour never felt wasted. And look, like sometimes did I need to have that time to just decompress? Yes, but I would even say that in some ways was using that time well, because on that Monday night, if I knew I had a few hours of work and I needed to just zone out for an hour on that drive so that I could have my energy back up by the time I got home and got to my computer, then that was also working for me. So it's not to say one is better than the other or you can't choose your own adventure there. It's really just like there might be some areas of your life where you have more time than you think. It doesn't have to be even a commute. It could be though, if you ride a subway or a bus or even just can listen to something while you drive. That's a great way to do it. I would also use the gym. Like I would get on that treadmill or elliptical, and I remember watching Marie Forleo's YouTube videos, right? They're all like a few minutes long, full of really like quick little snippets on questions about business and life and entrepreneurship and making the leap in your life. And so for me, that was so inspiring and I learned so much from her. And it was such a great use of the gym. Like I knew I wanted to be active. I knew I wanted to work out and move my body, but I couldn't always sacrifice that full amount of the time. And so I would do something like listen to Marie Forleo or a Gabby Bernstein book or whoever it was. So that could be something that you look for as well. Is there a place in your life where maybe you're stuck just sitting, but your brain isn't as active? And in place of TV or something else, you could swap in an entrepreneurial teacher or learn something new with that time. That is a great thing to do at this stage. Another thing that I would recommend is taking advantage of whatever you're doing now to learn as much as you possibly can and to build up your skill sets. So for example, if you do have a day job or a corporate job that sends you to conferences, see all that you can learn at those conferences. I remember getting so much more excited by conferences at this stage in corporate America because all of a sudden I wasn't just learning for my job, which was great, but I was learning for my passion and for my dream and what I wanted to build. And so every single class, it just took it to another level in terms of the notes I would take and the applications that I could apply everything to. So you obviously want to be a good steward of your business's funds and resources, but I honestly think that the more you can learn and the more attentively you're paying attention, like that helps everyone, right? And so maybe for you, you are in sales and you're doing sales calls all the time. That's amazing practice for a business. Let me tell you, I wish I had a little bit more sales expertise when I first started my first business because the sales was such a huge learning curve for me. But for you, every single sales call then can be so much more than a sales call for the business you're currently working for. I mean, go at it with this next level of tenacity, right? Like learn what isn't working for you. Learn if there's another skill you can master or another way you could do sales or if certain conversations work better or what pitches are working for you. This is such an important time because you may have a company that is happily paying you to go and learn all these skills and to develop for them, and then you can transfer them to your business in the future. Another thing to remember is like you're being paid now by a day job or a corporation, and so you may have more money now than you will when you first start your business and money's tight or it feels like you have to be so careful with every dollar. So consider what trainings you can go to even on your own dime. That's another thing that I did. If my company wasn't willing to pay for a conference, I paid for it and I went and I learned a lot and it changed probably the trajectory of my entire life. You never know, right? And so that's something too where don't wait on a business to do that. You have funds right now that you can put to work and that you can use to service that bigger dream. And guess what? Your company's going to benefit too, because anything you learn makes you a better employee and smarter and just more agile for them, but it also makes you a smarter business person for when you're ready for that chapter as well. Something that I feel like I should have done a little bit better, so I'm going to offer it to you instead, is making like mini milestones toward your dream. So for example, for me, I kind of was like just going with the punches. I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm doing the best I can, but I did not have a strategy for getting a certain amount of clients or replacing a certain amount of my income before leaping out of corporate. And so I ended up just doing it all at once. I was like, okay, I don't know how to do them both. I'm going to go straight into building my business when I was ready for that stage. Again, I had years and years and years of building other projects and other side businesses in corporate, but what I feel like I could have done a little bit more strategically, like I said, is really just be like, okay, this month I'm going to get one more client. This month, I'm going to get 5 more hours of work, recurring work, right? This month, I'm going to get $1,000 of recurring work, or whatever that may be for you and the kind of business that you are building. So that's a great way to chip away at the income you're currently making in a day job, right? Because 1 month and 1 client may not feel like a lot, but over time, if all of a sudden $1,000 a month turns into $2,000 to $3,000 to $4,000 to $5,000, now you're starting to get into a range that's approaching a full salaried position, right? And so one client, even especially with copywriting, you get one client who has 10 hours of work a week. Great, you might have to hustle in your nights and weekends, and I definitely did that, but you then just get one more, and now you have 40 hours a week. That's enough to leave your day job. You literally just built your business and replaced your corporate salary, right? And so that's something I would have been more intentional about, is like making those milestones, setting myself like a goal each month that moved me towards that business or side hustle or income goal. And then just being really mindful of like what those numbers are, what I'm working towards, and when will I get to cut my hours in half at my full-time job? When will I get to put in my retirement, right? And just do my own thing. I think that can be so much more motivating, and it just trains your brain to see opportunities everywhere too. Because unlike with me, it's not as willy-nilly of like, well, I have all the time, like let's just see what happens and I'll chip away at savings or I'll get a little side work here. It's like, no, this month I'm doing this. This month it's moving me forward in this way. And I think that can be so powerful towards using where you're at now and leveraging that time, but also being very intentional about where you're headed and what you are trying to do in this in-between stage. The last thing that I would leave you with is just to remember that every single thing that you're doing now will serve you later. There are so many skills I learned in corporate America that I was so grateful I had in building my business. Even little things like designing slide presentations, or knowing how to use Google Docs, or being aware of the invoicing software and things like that. Like all of that helped me. Public speaking, client relationships, sending emails, like writing blog posts, things like that. So even if you have a tough client or something, even if you aren't good with a certain process or a certain colleague, like that is going to help you, because none of that really goes away when you have a business. You just have to learn how to do it on your own and how to create your own process around it. So I would start being a student of that stuff. I'd start paying attention to, what software do they use? What project management tools do they have? Like what employees really help and what do you like about them? Again, sales conversations work. Like use this time and it will become so much more full of life to you and so much more full of meaning, because it will be building your dream, right? It's going to be the bricks that actually build that dream versus just this time that you feel is being wasted. It's not at all. It will serve you later if you look at it with that lens. So that's what I would say. One, find a day that you can batch your time, that you can get a ton done, even if it's only a few hours, to move forward and to make progress. You can get clients in that time, you can build your website, you can get more work done, you can work on just experimenting or learning, but definitely protect that time and use it to build some momentum and forward progress. Multitask whenever you can, on commutes, on your lunch break, on your gym or your treadmill, and then use where you're at to serve you now, whether it's the funding that you have, whether it's the conferences you go to, the projects you work on at work. It's all building towards your bigger dream. And so for me, these are all ways that really help to juggle and dance with that time and actually enjoy it and make the most of it as well. You won't be in this stage forever if you use these. So just know that and be proud of yourself for being willing to do something that not everyone is willing to do. So good for you, and I hope this helps.